This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
It feels like every NFL season, we have a week that is defined by injuries at key positions. And it's kind of looking like week 7 will be that in the NFL. Because you got this huge matchup between the Buccaneers and the Lions, but the Buccaneers' entire receiver core is either out or questionable, and the Lions have no defensive backs left. We've also got the Niners, who are constantly in flux. We have got a bunch of teams with key question marks, whether it be a quarterback with the Vikings or elsewhere. So a lot to break down and a lot to dissect. We're going to try to navigate those waters and preview each NFL Week 7 game, give you my first look at those based on my models, spread and total predictions, and identify early week bets that I like at FanDuel Sportsbook. Welcome on into Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast. My name is JimSannes. I am a managing editor for FanDuel Research, here to preview Week 7 in the NFL and break down my models, spread and total predictions, lay out where I'm seeing value at FanDuel Sportsbook for this week. We'll dive into all that here in just 1 second, but first, a reminder to make sure you're subscribed to the Covering the Spread podcast feed and the FanDuel Football Betting YouTube page. Over on YouTube, leave us a thumbs up and turn on notifications there. We are going live Monday through Friday there with 6 shows per week, including the DFS show on Thursdays. Tomorrow, college football with Ken Padgett will be on Thursday with NFL. And then, of course, NFL player props on Friday as well on the FanDuel Football Betting YouTube page, but also the Covering the Spread podcast feed again, Monday through Friday for that. Search for Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts, hit subscribe. And if you like what you hear, leave us a 5-star rating and review. FanDuel's getting ready for kickoff with an offer you won't want to miss. New customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet. Bet $5, and if it wins, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. You can build parlays, bet player props, ride the live lines. Whatever your style, FanDuel has you covered. NFL season is finally here. Only question is, are you ready to play? Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, an affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC, Kentucky, or Wyoming. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelpline.ma.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Let's dig in now to the opener for week number 7. That is the Thursday night football game. That is the Steelers at the Bengals. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, Steelers favored by 5.5, and the total in this game sitting at 42.5. And I've got this game Steelers by 6.7 points, and the total at 44.2. So slight lean towards the Steelers, slight lean towards the over. However, the Steelers minus 5.5 is minus 118. Total in this game, 42.5. Over is minus 115. So pretty heavy juice on both those sides where I do lean. I'm not going to wind up betting this game. Maybe we get some props for Thursday night. Maybe we buy into Jalen Warren, buy into, I think, a Steelers offense that overall has looked pretty good so far. I like Darnell Washington, what he's been doing. I bet him for a touchdown on Sunday. Did not come through, but I'll probably wind up there again because the snaps have been pretty high recently. But no rate in the spread of the total. Think we could buy into the Steelers offense, so based on what I'm seeing here, and overall just kind of liking the Steelers offense and what they've done so far this year. Got another London game that is between the Rams and the Jaguars. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, the Rams favored by 3. Total in this game, 44.5. Of course, injuries impacting both sides of this game because we have no Puka Nacua for the Los Angeles Rams, most likely at least, and no Devin Lloyd for the Jaguars. He has been already ruled out for week 7 as they're going to fly out of London. So some key players missing on both sides of this game. I've got the Rams by 4.4 after taking out Nacua, which may feel a bit heavy given that the minus 3 is only minus 105, and it does put me on some value on the money line at minus 152. I don't know how I feel about that. I do have a lot of faith in Matthew Stafford, and last year when they didn't have Nacua, it was just Cooper Kupp very briefly, and Devontae Adams in 2025, I think, is a better football player than Cooper Kupp was in 2024. So I do think the Rams can get things done here. think the Jags in general a bit overrated by the market as things stand. So if we get to a 2.5 here with the Rams, I could see myself laying it. Wouldn't mind that at all. As far as the total goes, 44.5, I have it at 45, so no read from me there. We'll stand pat on that one and ignore Rams and Jags, but keeping eyes on the Rams spread because I could see myself diving in there. I'm pretty far off market for the next game. That is the Eagles and the Vikings. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, Eagles favored by 2.5 with this game in Minnesota, and the total is at 43.5. I actually have the Vikings as slight favorites by 1.2 points in this game. No rate for me on the total, 43.2 for me. That's despite the fact we do not know who will start a quarterback for the Vikings in this game. JJ McCarthy, not 100% just yet, according to what Kevin O'Connell said on Monday. Honestly, he sounded pretty pessimistic about McCarthy playing this week. And then Carson Wentz also has what's being deemed as a actually serious left shoulder injury. So there's a chance we wind up getting Max Brosmer in this game for the Vikings, and I want no exposure to that. Brosmer played decently at times in the preseason, but I don't want to buy in there, especially if we're facing an Eagles team that, yeah, they played poorly last week, but does have extra rest to kind of at least partially negate the Vikings bye. So I'm going to stand pat here. I have McCarthy projected as starter. And again, when I do have the Vikings favored, so I could see taking the money line at plus 114, but I need a much better read on the Vikings quarterback situation before I decide to bet that one. So we are very much in wait and see mode here for Eagles Vikings, because maybe I do end up taking the Vikings if McCarthy gets a full practice in sometime this week, but I want to see that before I wind up betting it because I have no faith in what that situation looks like as things stand. We get Rashee Rice back for the Kansas City Chiefs this week as they take on the Las Vegas Raiders. Chiefs are very hefty, 11.5 point favorite here, and the total in this game, 45.5. I actually do think the over is pretty enticing as things stand right now. I've got this total at 48.6. And a big reason for that is because I think the Chiefs are going to move the ball at will in this game against this Raiders defense. They have already been a very good offense. Look at the past 3 weeks. So the 3 games Xavier Worthy has played, this Chiefs offense has been one of the best in football in that time. And yes, they did face the Ravens, and the Ravens are banged up. Giants are nothing super scary by any means. So it's not like the matchups have been super difficult for the Chiefs. They did face the Lions again with all their secondary out, but they looked good. And that does matter, even when you're facing poor competition. And again, now they're adding Rashee Rice, who adds this dimension to their offense they haven't had. They've basically been using Juju Smith-Schuster in the Rashee Rice role. And even after a suspension and a torn ACL, I think that Rashee Rice will be better than Juju Smith-Schuster in that role. So when I had this total at 48.6, I am very inclined to take the value I see in the over because I think this Chiefs offense is going to remind us what they can be when they actually have viable pass catchers out there, and they do right now. So give me the over, 45.5, minus 112 as our first bet of the week between the Chiefs and the Raiders. As far as the spread goes, I have it 11.2. Or FanDuel Sportsbook has this one. I had 11.5, so no read for me there. Was 12.5 yesterday. I thought that was a bit heavy, so moved back to 11.5 does make sense, but we'll stay away from that one and just go with the total in Rashee Rice's return. Got the Saints taking on the Monday night victors, the Chicago Bears, in the next game up. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, the Bears are sitting at 5.5 point favorites, and the total in this game is at 46.5. I think the spread's about accurate. I have the Bears by 4.9 in this game, so no pushback for me on what we're seeing here with this one. Thought the Bears got pretty lucky to win that game last night. Some turnovers really did benefit them. They played okay, especially the defense played a bit better at times, but Jaden Daniels was still very efficient. So I thought that they played okay in that one. However, I think the best bet in this game for me is going to be on the under. I have this total at just 43.2. And a big part of that is due to the weather that is on tap, not just in Chicago, but frankly, in a couple of other spots throughout this week. As of right now, projected wind speeds in Chicago are 14 miles per hour. That's a pretty big number. Now, you could say, hey, it's Tuesday. Why are we worrying about wind right now? But wind is actually pretty stable in the forecast at this point in the week. So I'm willing to make a bet based on almost entirely the wind. If I were to lower the wind speeds to 5 miles per hour here, I'd have this total at 44.8. We're not taking the under at that number. With the 14 mile per hour winds, it's up to 43 or down to 43.2. even at minus 115 on under 46.5, that's enough wiggle room for me to side with the under here. Maybe the Bears secondary gets a bit healthier. The Saints offense hasn't played nearly as well outdoors on the road as it has at home. So to me, that's enough reason to take the under here, 46.5 at minus 115, even though the Bears coming off that big win on Monday Night Football still think there is value on the under as things stand. Again, I got the Bears by 4.9, so not looking towards the spread in that one, just looking at the under for right now. Next game up is a doozy. It is the Dolphins and the Browns. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, Browns favored by 2.5, and the total in this game is 40.5. I actually do think the under is kind of intriguing in this game. I've got it at 38.4, so could definitely see myself going there. Do like that under for sure, but I think the Dolphins should be favored. And it's deja vu all over again from back in week 1. Dolphins had bad vibes. They were underdogs on the road, thought they should have been favored. That looked very stupid now because that was against the Colts. But now we know what the Browns are. And with Dylan Gabriel, that's not really a great team. And the Browns are coming off this ridiculous stretch of travel, going to Detroit, going back home, going to London, and then going back home again, and then facing Pittsburgh on the road. They have not had a bye week yet. They need a bye. And I feel like that does matter. Dolphins, the vibes are bad, but they keep on playing decent football late in games. They were able to claw their way back into that Chargers game, and frankly, probably should have won it. Now, maybe the vibes from Tua Tagovailoa talking about guys being late to meetings and stuff like that are bad enough. The vibes from actually losing that game to the Chargers, maybe that all matters enough where we should ignore this, but I've got the Dolphins favored by 1.8 points in this game, and we're getting their money line at plus 130. When we're getting plus 130 on Dylan, a team facing Dylan Gabriel in his third career start, where the Browns have had this crazy travel schedule, I feel like I kind of got to just close my eyes and just suck it up and do it. It does not feel good to bet the Dolphins right now. I don't want to go to war with this team. They don't want to go to war with each other, doesn't seem like, but value is value, and I think I got to take it. So we'll take the Dolphins money line plus 130. What could possibly go wrong there? It's not like we've done this before already, but we'll see if we can get some better results this time around in riding with the Dolphins. And again, I do like the under too. Under 40.5 is minus 115. If it were minus 110 or so, maybe we'd add that to this one, but plus 130 on the Dolphins is enough where I'm willing to go that way despite how hideous things are with them right now. The other interesting spread for this week is in the next game. That is the Panthers and the Jets. Now, when you saw the tweets on Sunday, like, hey, the Jets and the Browns are favored in week number 7, that was before the Garrett Wilson injury was announced. And that has now flipped, where the Panthers are favored by 1.5. Their money line is minus 130. Jets at plus 110. Total in this game, 42.5. I do agree with that move. After taking out Garrett Wilson, I've got the Panthers favored by 0.3 points and the total at 41.5. So not seeing any value there. I honestly don't know how much worse I can make the Jets, frankly, but I also don't know where they're going to throw the football. Their top pass catchers are Josh Reynolds. Mason Taylor has been fine, but it's not a good setup for the Jets. Panthers have played pretty well, so honestly, even if this moves even further and maybe I did show value in the Jets, I'd be hesitant to take it. I don't think that's going to happen, luckily, because again, I have the Panthers favored in this one, but we'll stay away from this one. No real interest in backing the Jets in this game, even if this one does move towards Carolina. Got the Patriots taking on the Titans. It is the Mike Vrabel revenge game. And I don't know about you, but I keep thinking back to the A.J. Brown revenge game that led to the GM change for the Titans. That keeps flashing through my mind as things stand when I look at this game, because it's Mike Vrabel against the Titans after they fired their head coach in Brian Callahan. Patriots favored by 7 in this game at FanDuel Sportsbook, total 41.5. Got the total at 40.9, so no read for me there. Patriots by 6 for me as things stand. Do you want to mention that Drew Dinsick, you might know him from the Deep Dive podcast, NBC Sports, he has numbers that say that there actually is kind of a bounce that teams get when they have an interim head coach. Maybe it's just the change in voice in the room, stuff like that. There actually is data to back up that a team gets a boost coming off of a firing of their head coach. If you want to take the Titans based on that, you are braver than me, because I've got this again by 6 points. So not a ton of value there, but just putting that out there. There is at times a bounce for teams after they fire their head coach. Maybe we get that with Tennessee. I want to wait until I see it, though, personally. I love Cam Ward, excited to see him, but the Patriots are playing good football right now, so I'm going to stay away from that one as well. Next game up is the Colts at the Chargers. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, the Chargers favored by 1.5. Total in this game, 48.5. Chargers money line is -122. Colts are at +104. I've got the Chargers by 0.2 in this game, so pretty spot on with the market. 47.2 is my total. The injury situation for the Chargers will be worth monitoring. Quentin Johnston did not play last week. Of course, Joe Alt is still out, or was still out then. I have a downgrade in for the Chargers based on those injuries. If I remove that downgrade, it'll move more towards Los Angeles, but I'm not sure we'll get those guys back this week because QJ, he did practice at times last week, but still a hamstring. That's a little bit concerning for me. The Colts offense, I fully believe in. They are legit based on my 2025 numbers exclusively. And probably my prior should have been higher on them too. So not skeptical of the Colts. And I think that the market is in a good spot with this game right now. So no worry for me. Chargers Colts, if the total gets to 49.5, then I might be willing to take the under there. Next game up is the Giants at the Broncos. Jackson Dart and Cam Scadaboo going on the road, taking on the Denver Broncos. Total in this game is 40.5, and the Broncos favored by 7 as things stand right now. I've got the Broncos by 8.6 and the total at 44.8. So when I look at that total of 44.8, I could definitely see why you'd be skeptical of taking the over as things stand, because the Broncos don't let up a lot of explosive runs to opposing quarterbacks. That's kind of been the key thing for Jackson Dart, has been his ability to make things happen on the ground. So when you're facing a defense that doesn't let you do that, maybe there'd be a concern about backing an over for this game. But the Broncos offense is better than what they showed in London. They have got some pieces on offense. They just got to trust Bo Nix at some point, and I'm hoping they will in this game as they're back at home and facing a Giants defense whose secondary can be a bit leaky. The front is very good, and that could give some issues here for the Broncos, but their pass protection is pretty good. So I do think that the Giants will do enough to make this game intriguing towards the over. I had this total at 44.8. That is without giving a big bump up for the Giants based on what Dart and Scadaboo have done since they became the starters of this team. I have a lot of faith in this Giants offensive line. They've looked good for weeks now, not just against the Eagles. They've looked good for a bit now. So hopefully they can keep Dart upright and allow him to get the ball to guys like Wan'Dale Robinson, I guess little Jordan Humphrey in the mix too, Theo Johnson, Daniel Bellinger, maybe Darius Slayton is back this week. I think there's enough to justify an over in this game. Again, I have it at 44.8. Over 40.5 is -104. I'm willing to go there personally. I understand if you're not, I think that's totally justifiable, but there is enough in this Giants offense for me to believe they can help this number get over a low number at 40.5. Again, as far as the spread goes, got the Broncos by 8.6, so not taking the Giants there, but do think their offense can do enough to get us towards the over here. Really fun game in the afternoon on Sunday. That is the Commanders at the Cowboys. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, this has moved. It was Commanders by 2.5. It's now down to 1.5. The money line for the Commanders, -130, and the Cowboys sitting at +110. Total is 54.5. I got a 52.5, so I'm not quite in line with the market, but I get it based on what these two defenses have looked like, based on, frankly, both these offenses looking pretty good too. We could see some fireworks here, so we'll talk about this game a lot on Thursday in the DFS show. But from a betting perspective, got the Commanders by 0.7, so I'm very in line with the market here. A bit of value on the under, but I really don't want to take that. So I can just watch this game. I'm enthusiastic about what Jaden Daniels can do. I know, again, there were the turnovers last night, but like his underlying efficiency numbers were still very, very good. And the Cowboys stink. This game is indoors. Cowboys defense stinks. This game is indoors. Dak Prescott playing like an MVP level. Maybe they get CeeDee Lamb and Kevontae Turpin back this week. A lot of good things to make this game a lot of fun. So I'll just watch as a fan as opposed to having action on it for right now. Next game up is out in Arizona. We got the Packers taking on the Cardinals. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, Packers favored by 6.5. Total in this game is at 44.5. Kind of feels a bit like the market is expecting this to be Jacoby Brissett again for the Cardinals. And I'm going to project the same for right now. When I do so, I got the Packers by 7.6 points. And maybe that feels a bit heavy, but like Brissett, I know he played well in that one, but like the larger sample in Brissett, like last year at the Patriots, 2 years ago in Cleveland hasn't been as encouraging. So I'm a bit skeptical there. And also Marvin Harrison Jr. is in concussion protocol. That could be a detriment for this Cardinals team as well. I do think that the Packers offense is going to show a lot of life in this game. Dontavian Wicks is banged up. Not sure if Christian Watson will be back out there, but this offensive line slowly getting healthier. And the Cardinals defense hasn't been all that impressive in my eyes so far this year. As a result of both having faith in the Packers offense and being skeptical of the Cardinals defense, I've got this total up at 49 for this game. Over 44.5 is minus 104. I think that's too low. When you put this Packers offense indoors, they've got a lot of weapons at their disposal. Even if Wicks and Watson don't wind up going, it's still a good offense that can move the football. Matthew Golden looked really good for the first time on Sunday, and I think that'll wind up mattering here in the very near future. So maybe 49 is too high based on where my model has it, but I think that 44.5 is too low. So we'll take the over there at minus 104. Again, betting on this Packers offense, betting the Cardinals offense doing something, but also being skeptical of their defense enough where I think that 44.5, too low of a number for this total as things stand. Again, Packers by 7.6 for me on the spread in that game, if I assume that Brissett is starting and Marvin Harrison Jr. is out. Atlanta Falcons coming out their big win on Monday Night Football, heading out to Santa Clara, take on the San Francisco 49ers. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, total in this game, 47.5. And the Niners are favored by 2.5. They're money line minus 130. Falcons at plus 110. I got the Niners by 1.9 this game. I had Brock Purdy in, but Ricky Pearsall out for now. George Kittle should be back. That'd be a big boost for this Niners team. But I feel like you got to start buying into this Falcons team, what they've been doing. That defense looked good based on underlying numbers before last night. And once you add in last night's data, you could make a case that they're the best defense in football. Again, based on just what we've seen this year. That's not going to say I'm going to project them to be the best offense in football going forward. But you could say that based on 2025 data, they have been the best defense in football. They are facing a banged up Niners offense. Apparently, Juwan Jennings has 5 broken ribs. That's not great. So I've got this total down at 45.1. Under 47.5 is minus 118. Pretty hefty number to pay, but do think that is the proper direction for this one. If it were to keep going up, then I would be willing to take an under here. But it doesn't seem like that'll be the case with the under being minus 118. Now, did go up from 46.5 to 47.5 overnight on Monday after it reopened following Monday Night Football. But I think that if it were to go up, I would be pretty intrigued by the under. So we'll keep tabs on that one. Maybe we'll end up adding that later this week. But for right now, we'll stand pat. But Falcons are legit. Defense is very fun. Offense doing enough, and they deserve our respect in the market as things stand. Got the banged up bowl up in Detroit. That is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Detroit Lions. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, Lions favored by 5.5. And the total in this game, 52.5. Pretty in line with market here. Got the total of 52.8. So I think that's fully justified. I've got the Lions by 4.4 points. So a bit less than what the market has it at, just because I think that Mike Evans will be back in this game. So I have a downgrading for the Bucs, but that's assuming that Evans does play. Don't think Ibuka will play. Godwin won't play. Bucky won't play. But we've seen the Bucs prove to us that they can move the football against anyone, even when they've got guys out. Baker Mayfield's a good quarterback. So I think that they can still do some stuff, even if it is just Mike Evans, or even if there's no Mike Evans too, especially with Brian Branch being suspended and the Lions missing a lot of key secondary pieces still. So no read for me in this game. Should be a pretty fun one to open up Monday Night Football, but I think maybe we'll get some fun props in that one on the Monday Night Show next week. Final game of the week is the Houston Texans taking on the Seattle Seahawks. Right now, FanDuel Sportsbook, Seattle favored by 3.5, and the total in this game is 40.5. I think you could justify either taking the points with the Texans or taking the over 40.5 at minus 112. I think both these offenses right now are a bit underrated. Both defenses are very good. So I do understand that to an extent. But I think that these offenses are good enough to get the job done and make this total at 40.5 look like it's lower than it should be. So I don't mind taking the points of the Texans at plus 3.5 because I do think their offense is underrated. They've got the bye to hopefully get that offensive line a bit more cohesive. I feel better about the over though. So if we're going to take just one bet in this game, to me, it will be the over. I had this total of 44.3 with the Seahawks favored by a point in this game. They're pretty even teams for me before you take out the bye week, and before you account for the bye week, because I got home field at 1.8, got the bye bump being a 0.6 points for the Texans here. So they're a pretty even team on a neutral field. Putting this game in Seattle does make Seattle a 1-point favorite for me. And I could take the 3.5 for the Texans, but I just feel better about the over as things stand. Again, the Texans, even before the Baltimore game, their underlying numbers on offense were better than you might have thought. And the Seattle offense has been hyper efficient with Sam Darnold so far this year. I think this total should be much higher. Again, I have a 44.3 despite respecting both these defenses. So to me, if I'm placing one bet in this game, it's going to be the over 40.5 and minus 112. But if you feel better about the Texans taking the 3.5 of minus 112, I'm not going to blame you there. I think that both those bets are fun in this game. Personal preference for me is in the over. But again, I do think that you could justify either the spread or the total in this one. That does mean you got a pretty strong lean towards the Texans offense. Maybe we took a check out a team total on Monday. We're talking about the Monday Night Football game, and we're talking about some Texans offensive props and stuff like that. But either way, do think the Texans are a fun look in this one, and the over is the good bet there. So bets that I like for week 7 as things stand right now at FanDuel Sportsbook, like an over 40.5 for the Texans and the Seahawks. We're taking over 44.5 over 40.5 for the Texans and Seahawks. We're taking over 44.5 for the Packers and Cardinals. Checking out over 40.5 for the Giants and the Broncos. Gonna go with the Dolphins money line at plus 130. What could go wrong there? Saints and Bears like the under 46.5 as things stand. Again, in large part due to weather, and then taking over 45.5 as the Chiefs take on the Raiders in Rashee Rice's first game of the year. That is all that we have here for today on covering the spread. Again, fun week on tap. College football week 8 coming up tomorrow. NFL week 7 breakdown of the biggest games coming up Thursday, and NFL player props Thursday as well on Friday. All these shows available in the Covering the Spread podcast feed and the FanDuel Football Betting YouTube page. So go subscribe there. 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and leave us a thumbs up on YouTube and turn on notifications there. If you got any questions for me, I am on X at JimSannes. I am on Threads at Jim.Sannes, and you can find FanDuel Research on X at FanDuel Research. Big thank you to our YouTube producer, Justin Lane, for his work in the video side of things. Thank you, Justin, as always, and thank you to everyone for tuning in. We'll talk to you once again tomorrow. Talk about college football for week 8. This has been Covering the Spread, a FanDuel Research podcast.